GAF announces the death of Infantry Battalion 1 commander. Nearly 330,000 Afghans displaced and UN compound under attack. And traffic decongestion operation hits the coastal highway. This and more coming on the World Today newscast. Hello, this is the World Today newscast with me, Mariama Cham, and thanks for joining us in Now the News in Detail. Commanding Officer 1 Infantry Battalion of the Gambia Armed Forces passed away in the early hours of Monday. The Chief of Defense Staff shared his condolences with the Commander-in-Chief, the Mendy family, and the public. A brief detail on the late Lieutenant Colonel Mendy in this report. Lieutenant Colonel Per J. Mendy was born on October 21, 1963 in Banjul. He attended St. John's Primary School and St. Teresa's Primary before proceeding to St. Augustine's Junior Technical and High School. He enlisted in the army when it was called the Gambia Gendarmerie in 1984. 5 years later, he was posted to State House as a bodyguard to the late former President Sadauda Karaba Jawara. In 1995, he became the principal protecting officer to the former military junta president Yahya Jammeh for 3 years. Lieutenant Colonel Mendy served as commander of Fajara Barracks in 2005. However, in 2006, he was taken to Mile 2 after he was accused of being part of Nur Jam's coup. During his testimony at the Truth Commission, he recalled how he was tortured by the notorious NIA agents. He later served a prison sentence of 9 years out of 10 as he revealed to the Truth Commission. Meanwhile, the burial of Lieutenant Colonel Per J. Mendy will be announced as stated by the Gambia Armed Forces. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham. May his soul rest in peace. Now the war in Afghanistan continues amid COVID-19 with the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people. A widowed mother of four in the compound of the United Nations in Afghanistan are among the latest hits in the worst side of the war. The United Nations mission in Afghanistan has condemned the attack in the strongest terms. Details of that in this report.
A widowed mother of four struggling to take care of her family is among the 330,000 displaced Afghans by the latest upsurge in fighting. She and her family huddled in the shade of a makeshift shelter in a camp on the outskirts of Mazar-e-Sharif city in northern Afghanistan, seeking respite from the 45 degrees Celsius heat outside. They flee their home to escape clashes between government and opposition forces. Mariam came with her 4 children, parents and brother, after opposition forces stormed their area and engaged in running battles with government forces. According to Mariam, she heard gunfire breaking out all around their home as the two sides fought for control of the area. As the conflict intensified in northern Afghanistan and other parts of the country, UNHCR, the United Refugee Agency, warned of an imminent humanitarian crisis, saying failure to reach a peace agreement will see future displacement. Amid an overall increase in civilian casualties, the proportion of women and children affected by violence has risen sharply since January. Adding to the toll Afghanistan's decades-long conflict has taken on people like Mariam and her family. UNHCR and its partners are assisting newly displaced Afghans with emergency shelter, food, healthcare, water and sanitation support and cash assistance, but a shortage of funding means humanitarian sources are falling dramatically short. The United Nations in Afghanistan compound was also attacked in what is condemned in the strongest terms by the UN. The attack on its main compound in Herat, in which an Afghan resulted to the death of police guard and with many others injured. It is stated that the attack targeting entrances with rocket-propelled grenades and gunfire of nearly marked UN facility was carried out by anti-government elements. The attack against civilian UN personnel and compound are prohibited under international law and may amount to war crimes. It has also been reported that 20,000 people were displaced in the Nangarhar province and new areas in the northern province of Kunar. Reporting for iAfrica News, Binta Jallo.
Now, new cases of the coronavirus and deaths related to the virus are relatively on the increase in the Gambia despite the launch of vaccine campaign. 253 new cases have been confirmed between the 26th and the 27th of July, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to nearly 8,000. Naisise Falls in this report.
More 900 cases are currently under treatment in different health facilities for COVID-19. The total number to have ever been recorded since the outbreak of the virus in the Gambia is nearly 8,000. With one new death recorded, the total number of fatalities stands at 213. According to the situational report from the Ministry of Health, 21 COVID-19 patients are currently on oxygen therapy. During his media update on COVID-19 situation in the country last week, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, said people must break the barriers of transmission to stop the upsurge of the virus.
Initially, there was a lot that was not known about COVID-19. Probably there's still quite a lot that is known about COVID-19. But what is known about COVID-19 says that has recognized the transmission pattern. And to stop the spread, that route has to be broken. That is, breaking the route from an individual that is infected to another individual that is not infected. That is how you break the cycle of transmission of infectious diseases. So if a person has the virus and the virus is in droplets, so if the droplets come from an individual that is infected and he stays in his mask, it will not get to the next person. Or even if some escape, but the next person also has a mask and he breathes in, the likelihood is that his mask will also protect him from breathing in those droplets.
COVID-19 does not stop spreading its wings around the world, with more than 198 million confirmed cases and more than 4.2 million deaths in nearly 200 countries. Africa has seen more than 6 million cases and more than 170,000 deaths, representing about 4% of global figures. It is stated that the true extent of the pandemic in many African countries is yet to be known, as the rates of testing are low. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Operation Clear the Road Task Force has arrived at all union vicinities along the Coastal Road Highway as of Monday. To clear off whatever is obstructing traffic and free flow of goods and services has been the main drive in the police operation. It began in Birkama, West Coast region by the end of July, leading to major changes such as the relocation of canteens and parks along the pathways. Fatmata Kasim has the rest of that in this report.
Traffic congestion has always been a problem in the Gambia, especially the prime time when people close from work. This is partly because of bad road networks, but greater share of the trouble goes to online scene occupation of part of the road and footpath. Police announced in tone that every object contributing to the blockage of the road would be removed at all costs. Those who fail to adhere to the official instruction are expected to face legal measures. A representative of the National Road Authority in the road clearing operation, Bakari Mane, recalled the principles laid down to ensure the free flow of traffic.
Enforcing the laws on the road corridor or the driveway, enforcement lies within the purview of the police. That's why the National Roads Authority cannot go without the police, as the police cannot go without us. That's why we're having this partnership. It all started between the National Roads Authority and the Inspector General of Police. That is the General Police Force under the leadership of the IGP, Inspector General Sanya. We had a discussion on the National Roads Authority and the police leadership that our roads are turning to becoming a market. Our roads are turning to becoming workshops, metal workshop and the like, and market whatsoever, garages. So the essence why we're building roads is now getting a cover. That's why we are saying we partner with the police for police to enforce the laws that we have on the ground. That's why we're doing this exercise.
The tax on police and the road authority is not free from challenges. As Deputy Commissioner Jawo explained, dealing with the public requires a lot of patience and enforcement principle at the same time.
It is not easy because when you are dealing with public, you have to get the patient and you have to be polite. And definitely other people, you must get a hammer before they can move, because we have been in anywhere we send people to alert them, but nonetheless, if only we appear and we start to act, they will move. Otherwise, they will not move. Okay. So it's not easy. But then thank God, because people have now seen the effect of this clearing the streets, and definitely everybody is happy about it. And we will continue doing it with the support of the Inspector General of Police, who gave us the full support to do this thing, and we are doing it without fear or favor.
The road clearing operation is guided by the law, a point expounded on by Police Lamin Kinkoli, saying that the traffic law have been there despite the lack of full enforcement.
And if you go to the law, nobody has the right to make the road corridor or nearby road a garage. There is a section 65 of the Motor Traffic Act says leaving a motor vehicle at a dangerous position. So that attracts a fine, particularly when you leave a vehicle at a dangerous position under that section 65 and causes death. It attracts a punishment of 10 years imprisonment. A fine not less than 15,000, not more than 50,000, or 15 years imprisonment. So it's a very serious law, and those laws are there, as Mr. Mane told you, NRA. These are laws that we are not enforced, and now we are fully coming out to enforce with partners.
The frequent traffic jam with lack of proper road networking in the country has triggered strong concern among Gambian citizens, considering the huge economic losses it causes to the West African nation. Earlier announcement from the Gambia Police Force had encouraged the public to comply with the newly initiated operation to help the traffic breathe better air. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Now, the Tunisian army has built more field hospitals to boost the country's fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The president recently deployed the military health department to coordinate the country's response against the pandemic, resulting to the new initiative. However, the lack of adequate oxygen to support patients remains a major challenge, according to the health minister. More in this report.
The military health department set up a field hospital in the governorate of Manuba. It includes 2 complete ICUs, the first with 50 IC beds and the second with 50 oxygen-fitted beds. This field hospital also includes 100 ventilators and 2 oxygen generators, ensuring oxygen supply with a daily production of 3,000 liters.
An independent generator provides autonomy in electricity for this field hospital. The safety of patients is guaranteed. This facility will reinforce the capacity of hospitals to step up the fight against the pandemic.
The number of field hospitals for COVID-19 patients in Tunisia now stands at 7. 5 additional field hospitals will be set up in other governorates in the coming days.
Following the President's orders, we will set up a field hospital in each city to take care of patients who need medical assistance and oxygen.
Acting Health Minister Muhammad Trabelsi noted that the problem of shortage of oxygen persists in Tunisia. Trabelsi added that the quantity of oxygen consumed in hospitals has increased sixfold since the outbreak of the pandemic in the country.
Oxygen shortage remains a real problem. Importing oxygen is very challenging during the pandemic. Tunisia produces only 100,000 litres of oxygen per day, while our daily need is 250,000 litres. We need to import some 150,000 oxygen litres per day. It's not easy to find providers on the international market.
President Qais Said said that a new operations room will manage the pandemic response. The facility will include representatives of the Ministries of National Defense, Interior Affairs and Foreign Affairs, as well as the Health, Transport and Environment departments.
The COVID-19 Pandemic Management Operations Room is in charge of monitoring the development of the health situation in the country. It will also monitor the strategic stockpile of pandemic supplies, including pharmaceuticals and medical equipment.
Now the report on Tunisia's military health department now taking over the COVID-19 fight in the country will take us to a quick break, and we'll be right back with the rest of the news on the wall today. Stay tuned.
The locations, the design, the materials used, all the way down to the latest details are few of many things that we focused on when we envisioned the airport residency. As proud innovators of community estates, the airport residency in Old Yundum, a project by Swami India International, offers unique gated community with 3- and 4-bedroom villas and duplexes. Just 5 minutes away from the Banjul International Airport. Luxury, convenience, and accessibility are some of the reasons you should consider this great housing opportunity. With a clubhouse, a playground, access roads, and parking facilities available for your dream home or a valuable investment, you will find all you need at Airport Residency here in Old Yundum.
Welcome back, and you're still watching the World Today News. Now, the final hope for the diaspora to take part in the election of President come December 4th has been shattered following the dismissal of the case on the matter by the Banjul High Court. The civil suit by 5 concerned Gambians sought the endorsement of diaspora voting by end of year when the extended term of the 2016 coalition comes to an end. Members of the public are still longing for a day when living abroad wouldn't make any difference in the rights to vote. Details of that in this report.
The debate over the diaspora voting has created a lot of friction among Gambians abroad, the government of the Gambia and the Independent Electoral Commission IEC. The application before the High Court against the Attorney General and the IEC to enforce the Supreme Court judgment in favor of diaspora voting. The court had ruled that Gambians in the diaspora are entitled to register and vote in any public election and referenda. Government, however, argued that there was no funding for the diaspora to vote as it was not catered for in the 2021 national budget. Despite the legal setbacks, many are of the view that the electoral body still has time and chances to facilitate the registration of the diaspora for their participation in the next presidential election. One of them is Yaya Kamara, who described the disenfranchisement of the diaspora as a serious downgrading in the country's electoral process.
250,000 Gambians not voting is a big distraction, and everyone knows they will not take it lightly. 2 hours ago, I heard on the news one of the MPs, Sidi Jata, complaining that the MPs should take back the money that is given to the IEC for the election. These people should be allowed to vote as proud citizens of the country. We have the Senegalese here, and they vote during their election. So why can't Gambians outside do the same thing? They should be allowed to vote for who they want.
Government, in the voice of one Bakary Mane, should have taken serious measurements to provide the required funding for the diaspora voting, arguing that Gambians outside have the same rights as those living in the country.
The Gambians in the diaspora have all rights to vote, just like other Gambians here. The benefit brought about by the diaspora surpasses that of those living in the country. If some of us living here are voting, then Gambians in the diaspora have the same right to vote. Over 100,000 Gambians live in the diaspora, and if they are not allowed to vote, it means their rights have been seized as Gambians. The government should take a step and pull out money to sponsor diaspora voting. The issue of not allowing diaspora to vote is because of the government and the IEC and also the parliamentarians who voted down the new constitution.
Yaya Traore challenged the Independent Electoral Commission to fulfill the promise to include the diaspora in the voting.
I blame the government and the IEC. I believe that they should vote because this is something promised by the IEC some months back. They spoke to the media that preparation is ongoing for diaspora voting, and it's been a long since then. This should not be a surprise to anyone. The government and the IEC should have been sure of diaspora voting before announcing otherwise.
Following the High Court dismissal of the diaspora voting case over lack of jurisdiction, the applicants are still committed to pursue their goal back to the Supreme Court where it all began. These applicants, in the names of Bakary Bunja Dabo, Charno M. Jai, Pasamba Sadaga Jau, Jigan Gerald Gray Johnson, and Sidi Mohamed Sane, are probably to be waited on for one more legal exercise on the diaspora voting. However, the question whether or not the diaspora will vote in the December presidential election remains hanging in the air. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Now, in a bid to mitigate the huge demand for housing in Nigeria, a private-owned manufacturing company is building rental houses as alternatives in the country's capital, Abuja. Many Nigerians, especially low-income earners, struggle to access the properly built houses due to the high cost attached, whilst the new initiative provides affordable opportunity. Details in this report.
Construction workers knocking and fusing metals together at Prefab World, a mobile shelter company in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The company modifies and converts cabins and containers into portable homes. The major materials used are metal and steel, a shift from mortar and blocks.
Basically, to the situation of housing in Abuja, we thought of something like this to help people, and they are very fast to construct, not like our regular blocks that takes time. They are very friendly in shapes, so all this are really what prefabs are all about. We deliver to anywhere. We can go there to assemble. We can take them here just with the use of IAB crane.
A report by PricewaterhouseCoopers revealed that Nigeria has a housing deficit of 17 million units. The nation would need to construct 700,000 houses yearly to close the housing gap. But just about 100,000 houses are built annually. A basic 3-bedroom flat could cost $30,000 or even more. And with a weak mortgage structure, low-income earners are unable to afford houses. Prefabricated buildings are seen as a much cheaper alternative.
It's actually a good way of solving housing needs because, number one, you can take hectares of land and you can build as many structures as possible. They are not constrained by size of land. Why? Because the container is already, the prefab is already standard size. And again, the speed at which you build prefab houses is way faster. And if you want to remove the structure, it's very easy. You uncouple all the parts and then ship it out again. Couple it wherever you want to use it. Prefab technology, especially, is mostly useful for low income earners.
A prefab building costs nearly 50% less than concrete buildings. They're said to be durable and more sustainable in saving up to 53% carbon emissions. That's why key players in the housing sector want the government to leverage on prefab technology to resolve the nation's mass housing deficit.
Now, the long-standing conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region has left millions of people in need of humanitarian support, but access to the area has become a concern. The Ethiopian government and Tigrayan People's Liberation Front have been blaming each other for not allowing the UN humanitarian assistance to access the area. More in this report.
The humanitarian situation in Tigray is still worrying for both the Ethiopian government and the international community. And over the last couple of weeks alone, 2 top UN officials have visited Ethiopia, including Martin Griffith, the Undersecretary Coordinator for Humanitarian Affairs. The UN has been calling for unfettered humanitarian access and previously urged the TPLF group to accept a ceasefire.
So this ceasefire, which has been unilaterally taken by the government, has not been reciprocated by the outlawed forces of the TPLF. He urged the Undersecretary that the international community should condemn or put pressure on this force to behave.
UN reports say that more than 150 trucks filled with humanitarian aid are stuck in areas bordering the Afar and Tigray regions. The government says TPLF-related attacks have made relief services difficult. TPLF source accused the government of the same.
And this also shows efforts.
The office of the Ethiopian Prime Minister said it had delivered aid even before the declaration of the ceasefire.
Prior to the humanitarian ceasefire, up to 500 or more than 580,000 quintals of fertilizer had been purchased, with more than 530,000 quintals that had been stored within storages in Mekelle and also distributed through cooperatives or through 10 cooperatives within the region. And with related to the departure of the defense forces as part of the humanitarian ceasefire, when they were exiting Mekelle, or at the point in time of exiting Mekelle, more than 400,000 quintals of wheat and 2.5 million liters of edible oil had been stocked in warehouses for distribution to those that were in need. And this is also, in addition to that, around 14 million liters of fuel had also been left in depot for any needs within the region.
The United Nations says 100 trucks filled with food and other supplies are needed in Tigray per day to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe. Many fear with the ongoing conflict in the north, more people will be affected, and so say swift humanitarian assistance is needed. The international community in general, and recently the French government in particular, are calling for the peaceful resolution of the war in Tigray.
The conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region not only killed people, but also left millions in need of humanitarian support, which cannot have access to the area. Now, that's all we have for you on today's edition of the World Today newscast. I am your presenter, Mariama Cham. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.